Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and this is the summary for the day of 1040 for the 29th of December 2024 for the Ukraine war or the special military operation in Ukraine. If you are Russian, but I think even Russia have to admit that it is largely a war. So anyway, we're gonna start off with the Kursk front because there is some major updates over in the Kursk front. Based on the latest mapping by the Ukrainian mapping, Ukrainian mapping deep state UA have claimed that Ukrainians have take back some grounds over in the Kruglenkoe region. This is the way they map it. So on DPS mapping, this is going to be a claim because a previous geolocation that was previous mapping change that was geolocation, literal Russian presence being geolocated. So this is going to be just a Ukrainian claim. So there will be this overlapping mapping over in Kruglenkoe, and this stretches all the way to the northern part of Leonidovo as well as into Novo Ivanovka. So this is pretty significant in this sense. According to the Russian Defense Ministry, there is fighting reported at Leonidovo, Novaya Sorochina, as well as Malaya Loknia, as well as Loknia itself, and Nizhny Klin, and there's a few more later in the south. I tell you later. But this change might explain why there was fighting reported at Novo Ivanovka on the 28th, because on the last attack was on the 17th, but then 28th there was some attacks. So that could be some explanation why there was fighting over in that place. Similarly, over at Kruglenkoe, there was fighting on the 26th and 27th, despite the previous attack was on the 19th as the front line moved further from Kruglenkoe. So this frontline change may actually be accurate, that it reflects on what had happened a few days ago, where the Ukrainians probably had successfully taken some grounds. But of course, the fact that there was no fighting being reported in these parts, according to the Russian Defense Ministry, might suggest that the Ukrainians may have already been pushed back as well, that the deep state UA's information may have already been outdated at this moment, but we can't be sure. So if I zoom out a bit, we see the entire western flank. There's fighting reported at Nikolaevo, Darino, Nizhny Klin, as mentioned just now, Loknia, Leonidovo, should be like that, more accurate. Ukrainian forces pushed out back in this sector. Russians attacked Malaya Loknia, Novaya Cherokina, and there is also fighting reported further in the north at Marevka. So that's in the northern flank. And and then if I move the map a little bit in this direction, so that we can cover the rest of the northern flank, the Russians are also reportedly attacking in Cherkasskoye Parashnoye. Ukrainian forces geolocated in Ruske Parashnoye in the north. So that's about it. Largely, the strategic situation seems to change because of this change at Kruglenkoe. But like I mentioned, due to the Russian Defense Ministry's report, I got some suspicion that the captured ground may have already been recaptured by the Russian forces. But let's see how this play out. Fighting at Loknia is interesting. But it's also interesting that Lebedevka and Svediklovo was not mentioned. So yeah, that's something very interesting. Okay, so moving on. Over in the southern flank, we have fighting reported at Kurilovka, according to the Russian Defense Ministry. But that's all. The rest of the front line went quiet, so that's all of the Kursk front. We move into the Kharkiv front, or the Kharkiv front. At the Kharkiv front, the fighting is largely over in the Volchansk region. With fighting being reported at Volchansk and Taike, according to the Russian Defense Ministry. The Ukrainian Defense Ministry mentioned Hatishev. So, which means that largely the fighting is along the Volchansk sector. So let's see how this play out. Very interesting that Hatishev was mentioned. And we move on over in the Voreshna front. Well, Voreshna front continued to be a thing with fighting reported at Voreshna and Zapadne, according to the Russian Defense Ministry. The Ukrainians did not mention Voreshna anymore. This is only by the Russian Defense Ministry. Over in the Kupiansk front, we have fighting reported at Kusherivka, as well as Petropavlovka. So the front line here remain largely the same. Strategically, nothing have changed over this area. Over the Pischane front, we have fighting reported over at Kruglenkoe and Lozova. So that's all. The Rhino remains alive. Over in Borova front, we have fighting reported at Zeleny High, Pershotravneve, Nadia. And so that's all. Strategically, no change. Further south, over in the Svetove front, Kharkivka and Makievka continue to be mentioned. Also similar, this one no change. Over in the Liman front, we have fighting reported at Ivanivka, Terny, Yampolivka, and Torske. Shelling is reported at Yampil region because this is not near the front line. If not, this could be an attack. But we can't be sure where the front line is right now because there's no updates in this sector for a long time. So let's wait for more intel. Moving into the Sivers front, there is fighting reported at Bilohorivka. Shelling is reported at Platonevka. Is pretty far away. And interestingly, the Ukrainian Defense Ministry mentioned fighting over at Zolotarivka. So this by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. They say that the Russians tried to attack Ukrainian positions in the region of Zolotarivka. And there is geolocation of shelling of Ukrainian positions. But that one is further in the west. Didn't change our front line, but is in the entrenchment region. So this in this entrenched position, I wonder if this is related to the Ukrainian report about fighting in the Zolotarivka region. So yeah, so that's a bit of interesting. So let's see how this play out. Moving into the Bakhmut front, at the Bakhmut front, we have fighting reported at Minkivka. So from experience, nothing much is going to happen, I guess. But there is some updates in Kharkivka where the Ukrainian mapping have acknowledged Russian progress in Kharkivka, which is super belated. Fighting is reported at Chasivia and Stuposhki. So we're going to zoom in into this sector. Over the Kharkivka region, the Ukrainian mapping have mapped that they have taken this area here, this little this forest area just off the entrenchment in the northeast of Kharkivka. However, they finally acknowledged that most of Kharkivka is under Russian control. The Russians have already claimed the capture of Kharkivka since September, and the Ukrainian mapping have never acknowledged this. Somehow they have acknowledged this only the past 24 hours. So this is a bit unusual. Maybe there's some geolocation from some footages showing the Russian forces in Kharkivka might going to be appearing soon. So yeah, so that's all from Grigorovka or Kharkivka in this region here. So interesting development. And we move on to the Thorax front. At the Thorax front, we have fighting reported in this sector of significance. So let me see, I can adjust. Okay. Fighting is reported at Thorax near to Zabalka region, Shebenivka, and at Nelepivka. And Nelepivka is the significant update over in this sector, with the Ukrainian mapping acknowledging that the Russian forces have basically captured most of Nelepivka. This also comes after a long time where the Russians have already long claimed that they have captured most of it. So this means that the Ukrainians have only a little bit of a Nelepivka left that is still uncaptured by the Russian forces based on the Ukrainians' own mapping. So let's watch and see how this play. But this is an impossible salient. So yeah, it shouldn't be able to survive much longer. But there is heavy entrenchment around here. So all this heavy entrenchment may be the reason why there is still some kind of Ukrainian presence in this sector. But I really pity the soldiers that is set to this far out away from the HQ. It just feels like some kind of certain death. Moving into the northern flank of the Pokrov front, Russian forces attack Zeleny Pole as well as Vostevzenka. And this is getting very interesting because this is becoming a prolonged attack at Zeleny Pole. We have one on the 25th, then on the 28th, then 29th. So it's becoming a bit more sustained. The Vostevzenka also a similar situation. there is fighting reported from the 23rd all the way to the 27th and then 29th. So there is some kind of a persistent attack within this northern flank. So let's see how this play out. Long time ago, I said that this could be a potential angle of attack, which would allow them to kill off the entire New York front. But not sure if the Russians will want to do this now because they have Pokrov, under siege. So let's see. Over the Minokhrad sector, there is fighting reported at Marylivivka as well as Promin. This continued to be a standoff front, so nothing much is going to happen here. Over in the Pokrov sector, fighting is reported over in Lysivka, the Chanske, Vrozhenia, Shevchenko, towards Pokrov, Pischany, Vovkove, Solone, as well as Novovasilivka. Of significance, there is some kind of frontline change over at the Chanske, where the Russians crossed the river, but the Ukrainian mapping makes it a hook. They draw it as a hook, which is kind of a weird. It looks like this, they draw it in this way as if that there's going to be Ukrainian forces here. It's just weird, it's like, yeah, maybe there's a G spot here. I don't know. It's like they just hook it in, and it's like, what the hell, man? They could have just drawn it like this, but they don't. No. So, but whatever it is, the Russians crossed the Solony River, which is interesting to me. But I don't think this is gonna last long because heavy Ukrainian entrenchment is around here, and they have seemingly yet to have secured Zeleny. I think securing of Zeleny, going straight for Novo-Ukrainka makes more sense than trying to pierce through this entrenchment north of the Chanske. But what do I know? So I'm just a person sitting at the armchair and telling you stuff on YouTube. So over in the Novovasilivka, the Russian forces have taken the rest of the industrial area in the south of Novovasilivka, and which means that the battle is going to move into the residential area very, very soon. So that's the updates over in the Pokrov sector. Further south, over in the Ukrainka sector, in the southern flank of the Pokrov front, we have fighting reported over at Novo-Olenivka region, Novo-Yelizavetivka with Ukrainian mapping and geolocation showing that the Russians have taken new grounds, and they have taken the entire northern outskirts of Novo-Yelizavetivka as well as the eastern part. We'll zoom in a while. Fighting is reported at Ukrainka, Zoria, as well as Slovianka. So this is the situation in the southern flank of the Pokrov front. As we zoom into Novo-Yelizavetivka, you can see that the Russians have taken the entire northern areas with three lines all taken by the Russians. Geolocation on the eastern part of Novo-Yelizavetivka also shows that the Russians have a strong foothold now in the eastern part of Novo-Yelizavetivka. So the Ukrainian forces is like going to struggle soon because the attack into the rear position is going to happen, which means that they're going to have to abandon position pretty soon. So that's all from Novo-Yelizavetivka. Terrible situation for the Ukrainians as usual. Over in the Pokrov front, sorry, not Pokrov front, Kruglenkoe front, there is fighting reported at Petropavlivka, Shevchenko, and within Kruglenkoe, and all of these, quite a few of these all have major updates. Geolocation of Russian forces at Sonsivka, Ukrainians off Shevchenko and off Yuklakli, not very important. Fighting is also reported at Dashny. So we're going to zoom into Shevchenko. Russian forces, according to Ukrainian mapping, have taken a strong foothold. The entire eastern part of Shevchenko has been taken by the Russian forces. So this is very, very bad for the Ukrainians. As you can see this finger very, very, going deeper and deeper. So definitely not just the tip. They definitely going to go all the way in. Over in the Kruglenkoe, Battle of Kruglenkoe, Russian forces have taken the entire Dacha region. In this not just Dacha region, there's a car garage region, and there is still some bits of Dachas around here, and then the rest is just the nuclear is the power plant. But the rumors of Russian forces capturing the entire power plant seem to be false. As I mentioned, too exciting news tend to be fake. So yeah, there's no corroboration by any of my trusted sources, so it definitely did not happen. So let's continue to wait for this to play out. I did do a battlefield analysis on the Kruglenkoe region, so do check it out. If you're not sure, it should be on the main channel of the Defense Politics Asia. And over in the Uzbenivka region, fighting is reported at Dane, wrong color, Dane region, and a geolocation of Russian forces in the north of Konstantinopolsk means that this is kind of a judgment call, because I'm not entirely sure where they come from. My perception is that they come from Konstantinopolsk. However, there is also possibility that the Russians actually stormed down from Uzbenivka region. So tentatively, this is how I'm going to map it, right? Because ultimately, this is going to be pretty impossible if the Russians are here. If they are here, let me draw the. So if they are actually here, then Ukrainian forces can't possibly stay alive in this sector. So I believe that the entire region is just under Russian control, with Ukrainian forces have to redraw to better positions. Fighting is reported at Yatarne as well. So, and it could actually be coming from this attack across the river. So whatever it is, there's some major updates in this sector, with the Russians now pushing into the rest of the Uzbenivka region. And yeah, so that's very important. Very, very important updates over here. Definitely changing the tactical situation. Over in the Constantinople sector, there is fighting reported at Constantinople as well as Roslav. But that's all. All these various geolocation of Ukrainian forces is well within Ukrainian territory, so it makes perfect sense. Velika Novosilka region went really quiet. Fighting is all reported over on the western part, with fighting reported, however, for the first time, Privene. So Privene is mentioned for the first time, so this is the most significant part, and fighting is reported at Rivnopil as well as Zelene Pole. The Privene is mentioned by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, so clearly they are acknowledging that the Russians have indeed made this breakthrough, and they are now pushing further north towards Privene, which is also something that I did say that the Russians is going to go for, because there is this water body or river-ish kind of thing along here, which will be the perfect defense line for the Russians in the short term. So or the midterm, so the Russians are going to push north and force a withdrawal from Vremivka and Lukoshny and Velika Novosilka with this big arrow movement. So let's watch and see how this continues to play out. But definitely things are looking horrible for the Ukrainians, strategically speaking. Moving into the Zaporizhia front, we only have fighting reported at Kayamsky, according to the Russian Defense Ministry. So that's all in this sector. And then we move into the Kherson front. At the Kherson front, we have shelling reported at Mikhailivka and also over at Sadove, as well as Antonivka. But nothing particularly special about these shellings, and that's about it. So thank you for watching. Press the like button, subscribe. We have done the last DPA open mic around 12 hours ago for the year. The last DPA open mic for the year, and we have a tremendous discussion, 8 hours long DPA open mic, and it's one of the best open mic in recent memories. So do check it out. I think you'll enjoy it if you like to chit chat about geopolitics, politics, war, military stuff, and economics, culture, and whatnot. So anyway, thank you for watching. Check out the DPA open mic, and I'll see you guys in the next update.